You are now tuned in to the Worldwide Underground. This is episode number 10. My name is Gabriel Teodros, your host in this completely independent experiment in long-form storytelling. If you haven't checked out the past episodes, we've got some good ones in the archive. Saul Williams, the last episode with Malkia Devich Cyril was incredible. Talking about media justice. We had Ijomo Luo on here talking about her new book, Be a Revolution. Nikita Oliver, Kings, and so much more. Thank you to everyone who supports GabrielTeodros.substack.com. That's where you subscribe and also where you can support the work that we do here. Today, it's my joy and my pleasure to introduce to you my friend, the incredible Kimmortal, to the show. Kimmortal is an MC, vocalist, producer, visual artist, actor, and just all-around superhero from Unceded Coast Salish Territories by way of the Philippines. That's a place you know as Vancouver, BC. And a few months ago, Kimmortal dropped a new track called Stop Business as Usual, which prompted the invitation to this very podcast. And just days after they released the song, they went to the Philippines for a month. So we catch up on the new music, the homeland journey, and a whole lot more in this episode of Worldwide Underground. Before we get into the conversation though, I wanted to give you a sneak preview of Kimmortal's latest music. This is the track I just mentioned, Stop Business as Usual. Let's get into it.
Business. I
don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business.
I don't wanna write a banger, I wanna reflect the time. Stop business as usual, stop the genocide. It's land back from Philippines to Palestine. It's time to uprise till we're all free. Fuck individualism, this is collective wisdom. No more consumerism, tune into global rhythms. We make the revolution irresistible. Leaning on each other, holding them accountable. They don't give a fuck about us, but we will still talk shit. We designing graphics, we reciting telephone scripts. We got our receipts, local archivists. We flooding inbox, the mayor's office. We calling his shit, don't be complicit. We boost the info, and we bear witness. We taking our lead from indigenous. We unstoppable, we won't say silent.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time. Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop
I reflect the time. Kafia's on the street, traffic blockage. A politician sips his cocktail and buns the rockets. We yelling ceasefire, your hands got blood in them. He licks his fingers, calls on his minions. They turning humans into robot cops. Slaves to empires, brains whitewashed. They put whiteness in religious laws. Gave them rights to enslave, mass graves, land theft, prison jobs. Real loves and decolonization. Total liberation of our nation. Stop the killings and the occupation. Changing, using radical imagination. Together we're amazing. I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business as usual, stop the genocide.
I don't wanna write a record, I wanna reflect the time.
Stop business.
Hey, it's the Worldwide Underground. I am here with my friend, incredible artist by the name of Kimmortal. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling a lot.
Yeah.
I'm many things. So many layers of
Yeah,
emotions.
absolutely. Me too. Right off top, part of the reason why I wanted to do this interview with you, and I think I first reached out maybe in late November, early December, was a song that you put out, Stop Business as Usual, And right now, on the day that we're recording this, Israel has basically started bombing Rafah, the last supposed safe place in Gaza that they've
Mhm.
pushed people to, basically like all the way to the south, right up to the Egyptian border. And Yeah, that song, that message, stop business as usual. We've got to end this genocide feels more pressing than ever. I was hoping you could talk about like that song in that moment.
Mm. Um, so that Stop Business as Usual is the first song that I ever produced, recorded,
Mm,
and then dropped within a week.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't care for, promotion because that's not what, you know, um, that's not what inspired the track. Like
Right.
the hook is I want to reflect the times, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm referring to Nina Simone.
Yeah.
And um yeah, it was actually the how I actually created the track from the first place was actually inspired by your track, Gabe.
What?
Light attracts light and everything else,
Uh-huh.
which is one of my favorite tracks by you because
Thank
that
you.
track, yes, um, that track is like one of the first times I heard an artist express music and then capitalism, music and then the
Mm.
industry,
Mm-hmm.
and how you grapple with that and navigate that as a radically honest artist.
Mm.
And during the time I was like thinking, what's the role of the artist in this time of
Right.
genocide?
Right.
And yeah, I was like, fuck the industry.
Absolutely.
It makes no sense right now.
Yeah.
Makes no sense in this time.
Yeah.
And then the words, they came through from what I was seeing. Like I was seeing um artists, activists, screenshotting scripts of what to write on emails to politicians.
Right. Right.
I was seeing like graphic artists, like animators that I know, making visual art, like visual graphics to illustrate what is happening. Like all
Mm-hmm.
these different artists in the community really inspiring me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I just wanted to capture snapshots. Like this is happening, this is happening, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um Yeah, and the other day a friend said that when she was listening to the track, she was reminded of Blue Scholars,
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is the music. See, a lot of Seattle hip hop. Yourself,
Mm.
Khalil,
Mm-hmm.
Blue Scholars, Rogue Panay.
Mm-hmm.
Um, these are the artists that I was listening to when I was starting to construct my own lyrics. In what, 2010, 2009, 2008, all those years.
Yeah, so
So
dope.
yeah.
That's so dope. Um, After you released the song, you went to the Philippines, and I got multiple questions about that because, um, one, I wondered like what your relationship with the Phils is like kind of throughout life, but also it looked like you found yourself performing or going to protests and then finally like performing at protests like over the month that you were there. So yeah, I guess that's two questions. Like, what's your relationship with the Philippines like? And yeah, if you want to talk about that experience on this last journey.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. So my relationship to the Philippines. So I'm second generation Filipino Canadian,
Mm-hmm.
born on unceded Coast Salish Territories, born in Vancouver, raised in Surrey. Didn't grow up speaking Tagalog, but my parents spoke to me in Tagalog.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've only been to the Philippines, including last December, 3 times. Uh,
Okay, so this was your third trip ever in
This is my
life.
third trip ever in my 35 years here on planet Earth.
How old were you the other two times?
The first time I was like, I just turned 20.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was like me and my sister going, "Hey, let's go to an island in the Philippines."
Uh-huh.
And then we landed and we were like culture shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Second time 2019 with my mom visiting where she grew up. That was also life changing.
Yeah.
Third time I went with my partner.
Uh-huh.
That was life changing. Every time I go back, it's a new experience.
Yeah.
But this one felt different because me and my partner were making the decisions on where to go.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like maybe the fourth day. I was like, "Hey, I want to visit this monument um, of one of the Filipino anti-colonial revolutionaries, Andre Bonifacio."
Mm-hmm.
So we head there, and then uh, I hear megaphones, and then I go behind the monument, and then I see this like mass of Filipino Muslims praying in protest for Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh, what? Like,
Yeah.
I did not expect that, and like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was really significant for me to witness, and it was really important for me to see like Filipino Muslims in resistance speaking out real loud, real clear, boldly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, lots of things I did not plan happened when I was in the Philippines. And you
Yeah.
mentioned I performed, and the first time I performed in the Philippines outside of the second trip doing karaoke, this
Uh-huh.
this time um I met for the first time with a Filipina American who's an activist and organizer now based in Manila. And she's like, "Hey, can you perform in front of a bunch of kids who are organizing an event for Palestine and in solidarity?"
Yeah.
So, yeah, I performed in front of a bunch of kids. I
Yeah.
performed Stop Business as Usual, and the
Yeah.
kids were just like, they ran that whole event.
Yeah.
Kids under 12. Like, I was
Wow.
like, whoa.
That's amazing. The video is like it gives me so much joy, like seeing you perform that song with all these kids just into it. Like, you could feel the energy even through the little video that you shared.
Totally. Yeah, they were really incredible. Like the program that they're a part of, I was actually surprised to know that it even exists in the Philippines,
Mm.
because that program critiques the educational institutions that um, teach kids. And so kids are learning about the systems in place that impact what they learn about.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so that was really cool.
That's so dope. That's so dope. I feel like homeland journeys are so important and can be, like you said, so life changing. Like if you could look back on, that month in the Philippines, like what do you think some of your biggest takeaways are from that month?
Yeah. Um the biggest takeaways, well, for me, the first one is familial, personal, because
Mm.
I ended up visiting my estranged father's hometown with
Mm.
and I ended up meeting my my late grandma's sister
Mm.
and family. Like I
Mm-hmm.
ended up connecting with family I've never met, and like that was also unplanned, but that was gut instinct, because I have to say 2 years before I landed in the Philippines last December, I just knew that the next trip would somehow involve my dad's hometown.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And yeah, some spooky shit happened too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was like, "Oh, I'm going to revisit my mom's hometown." But something in me was like, "Don't." But I didn't listen, and I still went.
Mm.
And I should have not gone. So like
Yeah.
I really like had an instinct fused homeland journey. Like it
Hmm.
was like a lots. I was really just following like, okay, today we're gonna do this, and then I ended up finding my family and also connecting with Filipinos in resistance.
Mm. Hmm. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Do you feel like you have like a deeper connection now that you than before? You must.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. I was wondering if we could go back in time a little bit. You know, you mentioned being influenced by Seattle artists coming up. I was curious, like, how did you start making music, and how old were you?
Um, the like first ever song I wrote.
Yeah, just how did you get into making music? It's just period, whatever that means to you.
Okay. First time I started making music was I realized I could make a song after I rented like Alicia Keys
Mm.
and like Backstreet Boys and like Brandy and Monica album. Those were the three
Uh-huh.
albums from the library. And I like opened up the insert and then I was like looking at the lyrics. And then I was like, I like that lyric from Alicia. I like that lyric from Backstreet Boys. I like that one from Brandy and Monica. I'm going to take those and I'm going to put it in a new song. And then I wrote the song. I was probably like 8 or 9.
Yeah,
So that was the first time
nice.
I constructed a song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I would say my main inspiration is after I heard Lauryn Hill on MTV Unplugged.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Just her and the guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that influence in you strong too. Like I would put Lauryn Hill in my top three, like all time influences. She's got that just that vulnerability that I never really heard in hip hop before her. I remember when the Fugees came out with that what was the last song on the score? I think it's called Manifest. She ended up like redoing the lyrics in X Factor on the Miseducation. But the first time I heard that verse, it was like I had goosebumps across my whole body. And it was the first time I heard a hip hop song really do that. And when I think about your music, what stands out to me is also the vulnerability, but also the way you just like go between rapping and like you got chops, like you got styles, but also like singing like so effortlessly. So I hear that Lauren Hill influence in you strong.
Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the vulnerability too. Um, Artists who have inspired me to be vulnerable and honest in my lyrics are Lauryn Hill, uh, Ian Kamau,
Yeah.
and Gabriel Teodros.
I love that. I love
It's
honored.
true.
I'm
It's
honored
true.
because you inspire me so much. You give me hope like all the time, yo. That means a lot. Um, that's tight. I started going to Vancouver for the first time, like probably in the year 2000. I was 19, and Seattle didn't have like a
Mm,
lot of venues you could perform at if you were under 21. I,
okay.
I was 19, which was the drinking age in Vancouver, and there was like some crews that we had gotten associated with in Vancouver, and a lot of venues that were accessible to us. So Vancouver became like a second home. And I noticed that like just through the years of like looking at the Vancouver hip hop scene, it's kind of been these waves of like when I came in, like Battle Axe Records was like the thing in Vancouver, right? And like everything kind of like revolved around Battle Axe and these nights that they had called Context, and it was very male dominated, highly homophobic, I would say. Um, in the Vancouver hip hop scene that I see you kind of flourishing in, it looks and sounds completely different. I was wondering like what were
Mm.
your early memories and interactions, if any, that you had with like the Vancouver hip hop scene? Like who are some of the early Vancouver artists that you knew about?
Okay. Um, I remember maybe it was my fourth year of university, and I was taking a gender studies course, and the professor said, write about anything you want for your final paper. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use this opportunity to learn about women in hip hop. So
Mm.
I went local. So I learned about Kia Kadiri and Dee Dee
Yeah.
Cascade,
Yeah.
JB the First Lady.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started looking outside of local, and I learned about Hopi Spitzhard, Rocky Rivera, and Invincible in Detroit, who's non binary.
Yeah.
And then I presented a paper, but it was through that paper that I actually researched and made an intention to call and talk and like meet these MCs. So I remember
Mm.
met Kia Kadiri at like where she was working at. It was like a food spot. She's like, "Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I'm almost on my break." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then we had a convo, and then I called JB, the first
Mm-hmm.
lady, Indigenous MC. Um, yeah, just like that was, and that was before I was writing raps.
Wow.
So it was really I entered it, I guess, from like coming from a prof being like, write a paper.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so there was that. Oh, and then I was encouraged to perform a lot at open mics in UBC, and there was
Okay.
this one event, and it was led by the Caribbean African Association,
Mm-hmm.
and um, it was at a pub, and then this poet dropped in, Scruffmouth, this
Never
like
heard of him.
poet.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Vancouver-based Black poet, talked about like an event promoting it, and then I learned about the spoken word scene through
Okay.
that open mic. So a lot of it was like my entrance into wanting to write was learning about different MCs and poets in the Vancouver scene and learning how they got into it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that Kia Kadiri and Ndidi Cascade were like two of the names you mentioned because they were, you know, I feel like both of them became like big sisters to me, once I started going to Vancouver. Like they're two of the people I probably perform with the most out there. So that's,
Nice.
yeah, that just warms my heart. Um, that's dope. I wanted to ask you, how did you develop your cadence and vocals? Because you have a lot of style, and I was just curious,
Oh,
like,
thanks.
was there a lot of freestyling involved? Is it like,
Oh, good question.
yeah, where do you think your cadences come from?
My cadences. Okay, so um I guess like bamboo
Yeah,
is like a lot of like, so okay, sorry. I'm like kind of scatterbrained. So,
you're good.
bamboo's cadence, Jean Grey's
Ooh, yeah.
cadence. Um I'm like honestly just like thinking about like the artists I listened to during the times I was like writing. So Eternia for
Oh,
sure.
hell yeah.
Yeah. Um
I love that your influences are like hella the homies.
I
It's
love
so dope.
that. That feels good. That's affirming,
Yeah,
like when they're actually in community.
yeah, no doubt.
Awesome.
No
Like
doubt.
we're connected. Um India Arie in my singing.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
Like Voyage to India was like my favorite album, and it's still one of my favorite albums.
Yeah.
Um
In the
I'm
early
missing
part
a whole bunch.
in the early part of the pandemic, like in 2020, I don't know what it was, but something about India.Arie and Gil Scott Heron were like the two voices that were like the most comforting to me. Like when everything was shut down, I don't know what it was, but I kept going back to those two artists, you know? So yeah, it makes sense to me.
Mm. Yeah, I found that in the pandemic too. I would return to like what made me feel comforted, like
Hmm.
songs that I hadn't listened to in a while.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, addition to music, you're also a visual artist. You know, you do acting. You probably got a whole bunch of other art forms that you practice. I don't even know about, but I wanted to know, like, how do you feel like these different mediums inform each other, or do they?
Yeah, totally. I totally think they do. I think there's so many different entry points into making music, as well as different entry points to making art that are um, multi-dimensional. So what I mean by that is like um, when I'm making a song and I'm like staring at the digital art audio workstation, technical terms,
Mm-hmm.
Ableton, whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't know what to do. But then I see it and I see shapes, and then I'm
Yeah.
like, this is like collage.
Yeah.
This is like, I'm going to color code each stem. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
organize it in a way that makes sense to my brain.
Uh.
Yeah. And I also learned that when I was a visual arts student, I taught kids for a while,
Mm-hmm.
art class. These were grade twos.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed them this artist, and uh, from which I forgot his name, but this artist illustrated music through shapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just seeing this artist's work, I was like, this makes so much sense to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not classically trained. I don't even know like what I'm hitting in terms of the keys on the piano or
Mm-hmm.
the guitar, but I know shapes. So I know
Yeah.
my hand is supposed to do this on the guitar,
Mm-hmm.
neck, etc. And it's all intuition and instinct. So it's like
Yeah.
what sounds good to you? You know what sounds good to you,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And then feeling empowered from
Mm-hmm.
that. So that's what fuels me to trust. I trust that in me.
Yeah, I love that. And do you make most of your beats?
Um, I try to have my hand in it,
Yeah.
but this last album, most of the beats I had a say in it. But it was I approached the last album like I wanted to collaborate more.
Okay.
But yeah, I do make quite a bit. I would say
Yeah.
it's like maybe 60-40.
And is that from the very beginning, like from your first album? Like, did you start making beats, or was there a point where you learned?
My first album was actually all guitar and vocals.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then I got my friends who are talented musicians to hop on those tracks.
Okay,
Yeah. And then
okay.
the second album was when I had finished taking Introduction to Ableton with Erin Barra, one of the first women producing electronic music that I've ever
Mm,
seen.
mm.
Taught myself through recommendation of a friend who was doing the same thing, and then sort of developed my sound from
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Because
That's
after a while,
fire.
it gets boring to just strum on the guitar. Like I was like,
Yeah,
I don't want to do. I want to, I want to. And there's so much out there. It's actually it can get quite overwhelming. But once you find like your sonic palette, it's really cool.
yeah. That's fire. I feel like I had like a different kind of trajectory because, I rapped over other people's beats for like damn near 20 years, and now I'm making beats for the first time, and I'm just like in love with it.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of your second LP, I had a couple questions about it because I love that album so much. Um, and I love the title X Marks the Swirl. I think I know what it means, but I was wondering if you could break down that album title in your own words.
Yeah. So So X marks the swirl is like a reference to X marks the spot, like a treasure map type of
Mm-hmm.
maps. At the time, I was uh, I was thinking a lot about maps, like colonial
Mm-hmm.
maps,
Mm-hmm.
and decolonizing. So, so I was thinking about that. I was thinking about diaspora. I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking about queer longing, longing for
Mm-hmm.
home, longing for belonging, longing for queer love, what I wasn't seeing, longing for something.
Yeah.
Um, and I was also thinking about uh, my gender, my non-binariness,
Mm-hmm.
my how that intersects with being Filipinx on stolen land. And I was thinking about the movement. So when you think of the swirl,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a constant, cycling motion. So I was like, once you arrive, there's still more movement.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
still more motion. Um, yeah. So that's kind of all of it
Yeah. Yeah.
in the umbrella. But shapes were really speaking to me at the time, and they still
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Another question I had was actually about one of my favorite songs. That I don't think I think there's a story in this song that I don't really fully understand. So I was wondering if you could help me. Ice Palaces.
Ice palaces that they made for you, they made for you, for you. Ice palaces that they made for you, they made for you, for you. You're cooler now while my head is cold burning. You're smooth, son, 'cause you got it all figured out, don't you? And I can't escape locked doors and glass ceilings. And you'll get away, this ain't nothing new to you. Ain't nothing new to you. This ain't about luck. Ice palaces that they made for
What does Ice Palaces mean? It's
Totally.
one of my favorite songs, and I'll be singing along
Yeah.
to it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, but what are the ice palaces? Like, I feel like it's a metaphor that's just like, yeah, can you break it down?
Well, Ice Palaces is definitely, you got it. It's a metaphor, and it's a metaphor for white supremacy.
I had a feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was trying, that was also a time in which I was going into high schools with Oz
Mm.
12.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's just me and him. Oz 12 is this really sick indigenous MC visual artist. I think he's doing more visual art these days in murals.
Yeah. I can talk about Oz 12 as well because it's actually when I was thinking about that connection to Vancouver hip hop, like I think of Oz 12 as like one of the young OGs, you know what I mean? Because he was the youngest member of this super crew called QC back in the day. Um, First time I ever was on a posse cut in my life, Oz 12 was there and Oz 12's voice is on it. You know what I mean? This is back in 2000 on my first trip to Vancouver, you know? So when I saw that you and Oz linked up, that was special, you know?
That's amazing. Okay, I never knew that. I just got a deep cut of history right there.
Yeah, he was in a crew called Sunday School Dropouts with Manic Wonderful as well, which I
It's
thought
a
was
great
like
name.
one of the yeah, exactly, one of the best group names ever. Sunday School Dropouts, you know? Yeah, Oz 12 is the homie.
I love that. Yeah, Oz 12 teaches me so much actually. I would actually credit a lot of the thoughts floating around that time I was recording to Oz 12. But Ice
Nice.
Palaces was basically a metaphor for white supremacy that maybe I referenced when I went into high schools trying to
Mhm.
talk about white supremacy. And
Mhm.
like, I kind of imagined, this cold place.
Mm.
and it's built for some, and it actually is, we can burn it down
Yeah. Yeah.
and make something new. And yeah, just thinking about design, thinking about space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
That's a beautiful one. And now we got your new album, Shoebox. I was curious about what this title meant to you. What is the Shoebox?
Yeah. Well, Shoebox was made during the pandemic, and I don't know about you, but like I was doing a lot of like what happened in my
Mm.
life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, with a shoebox, it's like memories. It's like, you know, I was also doing a lot of inner child healing.
Mm.
So a lot of the visuals are like playful, but there's something deep underneath and maybe even ominous. And um shoebox also is it it I also really just like shoebox art. Have you seen like shoebox art?
I'm not even hip, really. Not really.
Yeah.
Like, is your album cover shoebox art? Would that be considered shoebox art or no?
Yeah,
That's
like
from it.
basic, yeah,
That's like a
yeah.
still from a music video, but it's like you're inside the shoebox, kind of like.
Yeah, yeah. Like shoebox art is like I remember walking down Venice Beach once, and there was this like art vendor, and she had like tiny boxes, and inside the boxes were like little universes.
Oh, that's dope. Yeah.
And I'm really into like there's so much packed and potent in a single little thing. Like there's an entire world in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what shoebox is about. Like I did a lot. I'm still doing healing, but like I needed to process like trauma,
Yeah.
and it's all in this little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I was thinking about imagination. I was thinking about abolition.
Yeah.
I was thinking about queer love, queer sex. I was thinking about um, uh, Filipino folklore myths around creation. I was
Oh yeah.
thinking about uh, love in the context of community care in that
Yeah.
last song, Love.
One of my favorites on the whole album. Yeah.
What does love mean to you?
Just gonna say reciprocity. I was thinking healing intergenerational traumas with one another. I'm going to say kissing my friends on the cheek. Which ones? Which friends or which cheeks?
I'm going to say love is liberation.
And I was listening to it today, and like that song and a lot of your music in general, like I feel like I'm listening to family when I hear it, you know? And then with everyone's voices coming in, it's like, oh, there's Jule, there's Nikki. Like I hear these voices that I know, you know? Like, yeah, can you talk about the making of that song as well?
Yeah. So Love, that track was produced by a producer based in the Philippines. And I
Mm,
did not know because I just got the track off tracktrain.com.
okay.
And then I was like, oh, you're from the Philippines. Cool. And
Nice.
then I was like, that was the last song I wrote on the album. And the song is called Love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a hard song to write about. How do you write a song called Love?
I've been
I'm
trying my
like,
whole
oh my
career.
God.
Let's go.
Exactly. But yeah, the first time I went into studio with that song was the day Bell Hooks passed away.
Wow, that's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
And then
Did knowing that she passed away, did that kind of inform the lyrics, or is it just like a coincidence? Like you already had the lyrics and you were going to record that day.
oh, yeah. So the first time I went into studio, the lyrics were different, and then I found out she passed.
Mm,
And then I was listening to the track, and I was like, this isn't it. Like, when you just know the
mm-hmm.
track is not, no. It's not
Totally.
there. So I instead approach the song Love by capturing glimpses. So
Hmm.
glimpses of times I experienced love from my partner, from my friends, um, literally every line in it, I can picture the person that
Mm-hmm.
has shown me love.
Mm-hmm.
And um, so I would say love is the epitome of the concept of a shoebox when you're like, when you open a shoebox like of memories, good memories, and you're like, oh yeah, this is like a concert ticket, this is like a
Mm-hmm.
love letter, this is a card from my sister. Love, that song Love is like that. And um there's a little quote of bell hooks in the song Love where talk about love is like really rooting for someone's spiritual expansion.
Yeah.
So bell hooks made herself known in the song,
Yeah.
or found her way into it.
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that joint. I love that joint. We love so hard we dismantle the state. That's one of my favorite lines in it too, you know? Yeah. Um, your Bandcamp is incredible. And I notice you have songs on there that aren't on the album and aren't on other streamers. I was wondering like what's the story there? Like Doodle One and Breathe. Like are these just joints that you just had that you just felt like putting up, or it's also like low key I'm trying to get people to check out your Bandcamp to like see the whole discography, you know?
Oh, cool. Thanks, Gabe. I mean, like, with those songs, like you mentioned, Breathe.
I never really know if I am moving on or backwards. Am I rising into illusions or falling into standards? And how much of my stressing is from expectations wearing thin on my skin and killing me softly? So I give my fears a name. I pluck them up my eye if I'm my own kind of sane and rest. So not every single moment is a test. So I try my best to pause and take a breath. Like at the zenith of my inhale, I know I'm gonna be alright. I'm gonna be just fine. I know. Breathe. Just breathe.
Breathe just kind of never fit in like an album project,
Yeah.
and like Doodle was like also the same thing. Like there's some songs that I'm just like, that kind of just lives on its own. It's kind of
Makes
its
sense.
own unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I love those songs. I Breathe I released in the first year of the pandemic when people
Mm-hmm.
were freaking out. And I was like, this is
Mm-hmm.
the time to release Breathe. Let's
Yeah.
breathe. And then Doodle One, I released that when I was like mentally so not well, and when my
Mm.
Lula, my grandma, passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and I was processing so much. So that's a 3 songs in one track.
Yeah.
And yeah, so many of us artists have tracks in our vaults, and it's like, are they ever gonna be heard? Who knows? You
I
never
know.
know.
I shake my head sometimes because I've got albums in the vaults that might not ever come out. Probably won't, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes you just know,
Yeah.
and like there's no push or urgency.
Yeah. One thing that I struggled with in my career earlier on before I started recording myself primarily is collaborating with people who hold the songs hostage, you know? Like I might love the song, but it's on somebody else's beat and they don't want to release it, or it's a collaboration for somebody else's record and then they never drop the record, you know? Like I got so many songs like that where it's like I love that joint, but it's just not in my control, you know?
Oh, do you ever find that you write really good verses for other people?
Absolutely. Yeah, cuz I get so inspired by it, you know? I love collaborating.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's definitely collaboration. I want to do it more. I feel like
Hmm.
that's a skill that artists have to make an intention to grow.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's a whole different, like I'd like to experience it more. It's so fulfilling.
yeah. We gotta work on some more. I feel like we got a lot more collaborations between us coming up, you know? Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah. And I feel like, there is something generational, I feel with like technology has made it so much easier to produce and record at home, even from when I started.
Mm,
So it's funny, like when I started recording, I literally couldn't have recorded if I didn't have a crew, and all my early stuff was
mm,
like posse tracks because how else were you going to record if you weren't going to record with people, And
mm,
for me, it's like I started doing collaborations for years before making solo music. And even when I approach solo music now, I kind of think about like, okay, how am I going to involve XYZ? Like every time I do an
mm,
album, like I have a dream list of people I want to work with, and I never get them all on any of the albums.
mm.
Yeah, because it's always a really long dream list, but you gotta pick
Yeah.
beats and
Oh, yeah.
and then I think about story when I make an album too, like how how does this person fit into this story? Do they fit?
Mm.
It's a lot to put together.
It's a lot to think about. Developing an album is like, it's
Yeah,
a full production. It's like, I mean, it can be, or
yeah.
you could just throw a bunch of songs together,
And
which
there's
yeah.
nothing wrong with that. Yeah,
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like that's the first albums of mine were like that too.
Hmm.
Not the ones that I play people or the ones you can find online, but the earlier stuff. That was just everything I had at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like it can be a timestamp too. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's definitely like a what if I did throw all the songs that I made in year blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be like a full picture of
Mhm. Mhm.
seeing yourself. Sometimes I think I over control like a album concept,
Mm.
and I'm
Mhm.
like, what would happen if I just, you know, I'm
Yeah.
doing a hand motion of
Yeah.
like serving. Like,
Yes.
what if it was just like I just threw it up and just
Here's everything. Yeah.
here's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess even cause I did do two records like that, right? You're on one of them, like What We Leave Behind and Westlake 99. I th- those two kind of work as albums, but I think of them more as like musical scrapbooks because they're both albums. I mean, almost like like another kind of musical shoebox actually. Like they're albums that span many years of like unreleased songs that just for whatever reason never found a home on an album, but I love those songs, so I put them together and tried to make it as cohesive as I could. But What We Leave Behind was so funny because I was unsatisfied about the track list. And I don't know if anyone ever noticed, and this is the first time I'm saying it publicly, but after I released it, I changed the order of the tracks about 3 or 4 times.
That's so relatable.
I
The
was like,
order of tracks. Oh
yeah.
God.
I ch-
Yes.
I released it and then like I
Mhm.
took it off and put it back up on Spotify with a different arrangement. Like, yeah, probably 2 or 3 times at least. Like it was so silly.
But it makes sense. I really do understand
Yeah.
because like it is a journey.
Mhm. Mhm. And
The journey has to click for you.
yeah. And that's the other thing about releasing music in this era, right? Like before, when everything was kind of like revolved around physical product, you would have some time after like mastering your record and before duplication, like everything just took longer. But like when I did What We Leave Behind, it was like, okay, I'm mastering it and uploading it the next day. And I haven't even really sat with the album to see how, like I didn't even take a couple weeks to just sit with it, so so like I'm getting used to it as a project as everyone else is, and then I'm realizing like, ah shit,
Mm,
I want to move stuff.
it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of decisions you
Yeah.
have to make. I
Yeah.
remember sitting with my friend and asking her, should this song go next? Should this
Mhm.
song go next?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yo, I feel like the council is one of the most important things that I've learned to trust, like in my time of making music. And I call it the council. What I mean is like a group of trusted
Yeah.
friends that love my music, that will listen to it, that will be real with me. I just
Hmm.
listen to stuff with them. And yeah, it really helps. It helps
Hmm.
too to like listen with someone and
Mm.
like watch their reactions, cuz I don't know about you, but
Hmm.
I get the feeling of hearing something for the first time as someone else is hearing it for the first time, and
It's the best.
it makes me hear everything brand new, like I didn't hear it before you heard it, you know what I'm saying? Like
Oh my God, I love those moments. I still remember before my album came out, I sat with
Mhm.
Missy D. Missy
Nice.
D, Vancouver-based, amazing MC. I sat with
Absolutely.
her in her living room and I was like, "Do you want to hear my unreleased album?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hell yeah." And
Yeah.
then we just sat in the dark with her USB Bluetooth that like lit
Uh-huh.
up different colors. And
Uh-huh.
it was like one of the best moments, like before something's released,
Mhm.
just like and kind of peeking over at my friend, being
Mhm.
like kind of wincing a little bit because you're nervous,
Oh yeah.
but it's exciting.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I wanted to ask you about your stage show, because for anyone that has seen you live, they know you put so much of yourself into every stage show. And I remember there was an era where like every show was completely different. Like one show might, you know what I'm saying? Like you might be on the keys one show, you might be sitting down, you might have a video projection, you like there's dance involved sometimes. Definitely like I feel like you're drawing a lot from theater. um
Hmm.
I just wanted to know like how do you approach your stage show and like crafting these moments, and how do you feel on
Yeah.
stage too?
How do I feel on stage? Oh my God. The stage is like my favorite place.
Yeah.
Like the stage is like where I can just be all the things. Like I can be OA, which in for the Filipinos, OA is short for overacting. So it's like, oh my God,
Hmm.
Kim, you're so OA. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I know, I know. But but yeah, because of my background in theater, I was in a hip hop theater production that ran for like 6 years, like throughout my 20s. And
Wow.
yeah, that's where I saw multimedia presentation of a story. And I was like,
Yeah,
I want this in my music. I'll just try to
absolutely.
transfer what I learned.
Hmm.
And yeah, like there's so many ways to interact with art, and why not bring different elements? Why not?
Yeah.
Like why not give people something to look at
Yeah.
that relates to something you want to convey?
Yeah.
So and because I'm a visual artist, I'm like, I could just utilize this. I could try it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, um, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like I learn from you when you perform. Like I know several seasoned vets that have seen you perform that have all learned from you. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's just really really inspiring. Like what you bring. It's yeah makes me want to go back to acting school. Which which brings me to what you're doing right now. Like you're in Toronto as I'm talking to you. Do you want to talk about what you're doing out there, or is that public
Yeah,
knowledge? Or
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, really for 2024, my intention is to put myself through self-directed school, but not like
Mm.
register into any institution. So like I just want to
Mm-hmm.
learn. I
Hell
really
yeah.
and learning, I forgot, takes so much energy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so like to receive and to process and absorb knowledge is exhausting.
Uh-huh.
And then
Uh-huh.
and then there's and then there's multiple genocides in the world.
Right.
All of this at once.
Mm-hmm.
This is also a very potent time. So potent, this is it. This is life right now. But you caught me in a time in my life where I'm kind of bored of music.
Interesting. Wow. And
Yeah.
you just dropped your album like 6 months ago, and you're like, I'm bored.
I'm bored. I'm kind of bored of the cycle of like
Yeah.
writing a song that's like 2.5 minutes, try like making it rhyme. Not that you have to
Uh-huh.
make it rhyme, but like kind of feeling limited within the construct of a song, and then the upload process, and then promotion,
The
and then
promotion part I
the
hate.
promotion. Oh my God, me too.
I'm not good at it either. I'm not even doing a good job promoting this podcast.
It lives, and that's what's important.
It
And
lives,
it lives, and like I don't know. Sometimes with like art and music, you kind of don't know what will stick with people. So I'm kind of
Mhm.
like whatever. Like with tracks, I'm like I'll make a track. Stop business as usual was actually a reclamation of
Mm.
my agency within music,
Say
and
that.
yeah, a lot of that and it's not lost on me that that was happening. That's happening during a genocide where
Yeah.
all these systems that rule sacred things such as music, capitalism, and white supremacy are in the industry of music. I'm like,
Right.
fuck that.
Right.
Fuck that. So right now I'm in Toronto because I'm in film acting classes. So
Nice.
so I'm learning how to act and learning how to like feel and embody characters.
Mhm.
And I'm also in a script writing class taught
Dope.
by Marie B, Filipina playwright. Incredible. She's
Dope.
goals for when I'm 49.
Say that.
Like she is like, oh, but
Yeah.
it's like every week, every Monday, it's 3 hours. We're like writing plays based on characters. And
Mhm.
I'm just interested in research. Like
Mm.
I want to like research. Like
Mhm.
I want to ground my work on what is happening, what has happened.
Mhm.
Um in music sometimes I can get lost
Mhm.
in abstraction. I think it can be
Right.
easy to get lost.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm doing that. I'm taking Tagalog lessons on Zoom.
Amazing. Uh-huh.
Um and I'm meeting awesome artists that I've always admired in Toronto and making new friends. Yeah.
I love it. That's so great.
Yeah.
That's so great. How do you feel like, cuz you mentioned you were like doing hip hop theater for like 6 years. How is that experience different than what you're studying now?
Mm. Well, the production that I was in was it's funny. I played a 16-year-old Filipina battle rapper who was grappling with the murder of her friend who was shot by police,
Wow.
while also navigating what it meant to be a Filipina MC in black music.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
for a good like 6 years, I was in that play, like
Uh-huh.
throughout my 20s, playing a 16-year-old. I have to
Wow.
say, a very problematic
Mhm.
16-year-old, but a powerful 16-year-old.
Mhm.
And so there was that theater production where I learned a ton of skills and really was also grappling with like Black Lives Matter. That was the
Yeah.
time of Black Lives Matter. The play was written before the movement.
Right.
So, or before the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that play is really like it's coming from a very particular point of view. And then fast forward to now, I'm in my 30s. I'm in acting class, and it's just scene work. So I'm like, it's so funny, Gabe. I'm in a class right now where I have to portray a cop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So I'm memorizing lines, and I'm just, I'm, it's a lot. It's a lot,
That's
but
really, it's really hard.
I'm learning a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That's got to be really hard. I know just from like in my experience, like you, like I always want to continue learning, you know, and I took Clarion West, like a speculative fiction intensive a couple years ago. It's like 6 weeks where it's like an MFA program, but like smashed into a summer where you live in a house with 18 other speculative fiction writers, and every week another like master in the craft comes and like teaches you things, and you have to write a story every week and critique 17 others, you know what I'm saying? And you learn so much. And one of the things that, you know, I picked up from there was when you're writing a story, you can't judge the characters that you're writing, you know? And I can imagine for acting, it's the same thing. Like you've got to find these people's intentions, and like that I just can't imagine doing that for like trying to embody a police officer, especially now. Like,
oh my goodness. Yeah. Oof, exactly. You totally summed up things I'm thinking about this week. Like,
yeah.
not judging the character. Like, my script writing teacher and my acting instructor both told me, push the humanity forward.
Right.
You want to bring the humanity forward. And it's hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I it's hard to not judge a character.
Yeah.
And to just yeah.
Acting is studying the art of being human. It really is, you know? And once you can do that, it you can be more accepting, I think, in general, you know, but it's rough, you know. I commend
That's the goal.
I commend you for it, you know. That's amazing, and I can't wait to see what springs forth from this time period of you learning and growing and expanding, you know.
Thanks, Gabe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No doubt. Is there anything else you want to leave the people with? We've talked for almost an hour.
I just enjoyed this talk.
Yeah, me too. I always love connecting with you. Yeah.
Yeah. I listened to the podcast with Derek.
Nice.
About the grief place, and yeah, just like what you're doing with this podcast, and like what that particular podcast did was like, it was like to talk about grief and to like, yeah, to talk about it is like a really powerful, it's a rare thing. Yeah. And I'm grateful for this space where you're just like popping pockets and like, yeah, so I'm grateful for this, and I'm so grateful for you, and thank you for your music, and it's informed my own, and it gives me strength during these messed up times, you know, just like remembering the people that are holding things up.
Absolutely. And likewise, like your music gives me so much hope and keeps me going as well, you know. And yeah, thank you for this time, thank you for this conversation, and let's connect some more soon.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. It's Worldwide Underground with Kimmortal. Appreciate you so much. I want to thank Kimmortal again for sharing their time and stories with us. And I want to thank you all for hanging out with us as well. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe to GabrielTeodros.substack.com for future episodes and to check out all of our past ones featuring people like Malkia Devich Cyril, Ijomo Oluo, Saul Williams, Nikita Oliver, Derek Dizon, Bilin Nahuet, Marawi Garima, Kings, and so much more. We'll be back with you soon. Till then, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and free Palestine. Always.